On this episode of Front End Fire, we're going to take a look at how to actually use React Compiler. We talk about Cursor, which had a 2.0 release with a whole bunch of agentic things that we'll talk about. And we're going to discuss whether the AI bubble is about to burst. It's Front End Fire. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Front End Fire, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the latest and greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, TJ Van Tol. I have Paige Niedringhouse with me.
Hey everybody.
And Jack Harrington.
Hey there guys. I'm representing the Tan Stack today. I got my Tan Stack hoodie on.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a good logo for stuff. Like I've got my Blues hoodie on and
there you go.
Like, our logo's okay, but it's
it
kind of
could
basic.
Work for Target, possibly. That's the thing.
It does, yeah. It's like a square peg in a round hole, right?
Oh.
That's
A little Instagram-y and also.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it before, if you look us up, you have to say like Blues Wireless if you want to look us up. Otherwise, you'll get the St. Louis Blues or you'll get like the House of Blues for music or something.
Oh, yeah.
But
okay, there you go.
But we do own blues.com, so that's something.
We do.
And it's not Blues Clues.
Yeah, there's so much. It's hard. SEO is tough with the name Blues, but it's not what we're talking about today. We've got some news to cover. Let's do it. All right, Jack, I hear you've been messing with React Compiler.
I have, and I'm, again, blown away by this thing, honestly. I played with it when it first kind of popped out, like last year with React Conf, and this year it's gone 1.0, so they've gotten all the kinks out of it and all that. And I integrated it into Create Tan Stack app, so now you just have to say I want the compiler, and there you go. But really, it's so easy. Like if you're in a Vite app, you're bringing in this React plugin anyway, and then you just add in the Babel transform for the compiler. You will slow down a little bit on the build because it's using Babel in the process where you didn't have to before. But I gotta say, like, the speed up is phenomenal. It's not just about like add or removing use memos. It's not about yeah, sure it does that. But what blew me away was like inside of a component, it tracks like what state affects what JSX. And so it'll memoize chunks of the JSX. And then if the state doesn't change inside of a component, then that chunk of the component won't get re-rendered, which is super cool, which means that like literally like you can have a pretty complex component and it'll get sped up a lot because like, oh, well, if this state only changes these two parts, then the whole component won't re-render, just the parts that are actually changing. And so like I was playing around with this demo that I put together of like a table that had 5,000 people in it. So it had like 20,000 elements, and just literally doing all the React Create elements to go and build that out is like on Chrome is like 80 milliseconds. On Firefox, it's only like 60 on my machine. So that's why I was like, nice. Firefox. Okay, let's go. But yeah, so I mean, you can definitely see like just doing that alone. Like it's not going to change the DOM. It just needs to go and create these VDOM elements and then compare them to the VDOM and blah, 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 right? It dropped to 0. Like it literally, because the data didn't change. If I didn't change like the sort ordering, the data didn't change. And so you get just this immediate snappy UI with just going and adding in this compiler. It's really cool. And it kind of creates this like new kind of halfway step between, say, like a React and a Preact, where it's like full component re-rendering, and Solid, which is like, absolutely granular, like fine-grained updating of elements or components, that sort of thing. It creates this kind of midway step, which is like, memoized, like finely memoized components, which is really, really cool.
If you're integrating React Compiler into an already existing app that has use callbacks and use memos and things like that, do you need to go and remove all of those? Can you
Nope.
leave them and it doesn't care? Like, You could just leave them in your code and not worry about it.
Yeah, you can leave them in your code and not worry about it. And they even have
Nice.
and I know there's been a whole bunch of stuff about like pragmas this week about like everybody going like, oh, use this and use that and use the other thing and use cache and use this. There actually is like on a per module basis a use no memo pragma. So if you like don't want this particular component to be memoized using the compiler, you just put that at the top of the file and it'll just avoid that file. Oh, another thing is in the React DevTools, you'll actually see now in the tree, you'll actually see like a little memo thing and it's got a little star next to it like, oh, I've been automatically memoized by the compiler. So you can actually make sure that like, oh, okay, this component has actually been memoized.
That'd be
That
really
is
interesting
nice.
to do like a before and after on, because sometimes like I enabled it. I haven't turned it on in production, but I've enabled it in some, smaller projects just to see the difference. And sometimes it can be hard to say. Like all you're really saying is like if you're doing a performance test, sure, that's one thing. But if you're just casually turning it on for your app, the biggest thing you care about is, well, did things break, or
Right, did it break? Yeah.
is the thing still working? Are my tests still passing? And for the most part, when I've tested it, things seem to be working. But it's harder for me to say what difference it's made. And it is a little bit, it's because of the nature of what it's doing, it is a little bit scary to turn it on for big apps in production just because of the scale. Like if you turn it on project wide and it's affecting all of your components and on top of a sizable app, it's a little bit much. So I've got it sitting in development here on our biggest project, and it seems to be working. But at some point, I just have to pull the trigger, I guess.
I mean, it has reached 1.0, so
Yeah.
that's a good indicator that it's getting stable if it's not.
I do have one question. So Paige brought up an interesting point. So obviously, I wouldn't recommend anybody take out use memos or use callbacks that they already have in their code base just to get this enabled. But long term, do you think like for code clarity purposes, would you from existing components just rip this out? Because I mean, I guess you might as well just rely on the compiler to do it at this point, and your code will read a whole lot cleaner without them.
Yeah, it seems insane, right? I mean, so this particular example of like this table, right? So right at the top, you've got, okay, I've got my data, and I've got my data as a prop, and I've got my sort field as a prop. And so the sort field changes. I've got this use memo that basically does the sort based on that field, right?
Yeah.
And you can go and take that out and the use memo and just inline it. And it's like, const, people sorted equals, dot people, sort. And it's like, wow, that actually, it works. Like it's kind of crazy. It's like, oh, wow. Like it's, yeah. As a React developer, you want it's like gulp, but it's cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, my news this week is about Cursor. So Cursor, everybody's favorite VS Code forked /AI editor /agentic tool, which is really what they're positioning themselves more as, especially with this 2.0 release. So with 2.0, they say on this blog post, today we're releasing 2 big updates that make Cursor the best place to work with agents. Our first coding model, Composer, and a new interface for working with many agents in parallel. So 2 pretty big things. The first is this new model. So it's Composer. They say it's a frontier model that is 4 times faster than similarly intelligent models, and that the model is built for low latency agentic coding in Cursor, completing most turns in under 30 seconds. And they say it was trained with a set of powerful tools, including code-base wide semantic search, making it much better at understanding and working in large code bases. So a new model, I tested it very briefly today, and it did quite well. So I threw it a couple different tasks. I had it design a new page for the front end Fire website, a new like ask a question type page, which is something we considered making, and it did pretty good. And it was the biggest thing I noticed is that it was quite fast. So when they say here performance was a big goal of this, it definitely was. Like compared to some of these agentic tools, really they chug when they spit things out, and that's clearly the goal of this was to get things up fast. Like it spun up that page in under a minute. It probably was more like 30 seconds. It was pretty impressive. And then I tried it on some larger things. So I had it, I mentioned earlier React Compiler. So of course I was having Composer, the new agent. I was like, turn on React Compiler. Let's try upgrading to Next 16. And it did pretty good with that too. I was, again, surprised by the speed at which it did it. Because it had to look up, it ran into some turbo pack issues, which it's funny to see the agents sort of mimicking the things I went through when I tried it. Like it found some turbo pack issues, then it was like researching what to do, and then it gave up on turbo pack. So it looked up online and it saw that there was a -- webpack flag, and then it started using that, and it was like,
That's
oh man,
hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tools are more like us than we realize.
Right? Yes. Yeah, I've definitely seen it. Like try to do what I want it to do, and then it's like, no, I'm not gonna do it that way. I'm gonna do it this other way. And it's like, I know, but I really wanted it that way.
Yep. So the new model is interesting, and it'll take some time for people to play with it and really give it a thorough test of how good it is. It seemed, like I said, it seemed pretty good in the quick things that I do. To me, though, the far more interesting thing about this update is all the stuff that they're doing around agentic tooling. So when you go in Cursor now, at the highest level in the editor, there's two basically tabs between modes that you can use the editor in. The first is, it says editor, and it's the exact cursor you always know and whatever. The second tab is agents. So, and agents is now like kind of put in the default position ahead of editor. So they're really
pushing that.
Strongly pushing this. And what the agent does, so by default, the agent is kind of like agents you've used anywhere else. You spit out a task, it goes about its thing. But what they're really focusing on with this release, and it's actually kind of wild, is being able to run multiple agents in parallel. So you can run, I'll just read this from their blog post. Cursor 2.0 makes it easy to run many agents in parallel without them interfering with another. Powered by Git work trees or remote machines, we found that having multiple models attempt the same problem and picking the best result significantly improves the final output, especially for harder tasks. So what this actually looks like is you can go into Cursor, you can write up your task. I tried this out by like the front end fire questions page or whatever, but you can select multiple models. And if you do so, it'll spin up basically multiple implementations. So you'll have like, here's the Composer implementation, here's the Claude Sonnet implementation, here's the OpenAI one or whatever, and they'll just be running in parallel. And you have a way of selecting one. It's kind of doing some magic in Git for where it's storing these files, because obviously you're still running in one repository, one project as it does this. And so if that's not enough, while you're doing that, you can kick off another simultaneous agent. So you can go full matrix mode here, because you can have it running on one task with different models, but then you can spit up something completely different and have it going as well. And they say on here, you can run up to eight agents at a time in their system. I don't know who is doing that. But clearly this is important to them and something that they're focusing on, that they're pushing this out. And when I tried it, the UI for this is kind of slick. I worry a little bit because, I don't know, as we've talked on the show before, this kind of like letting agents do things on their own is not the workflow that I like to use when I use AI tools. But I guess for the people that do, like, man, you could really kind of go nuts with this. I don't know. I don't know what you two think about this. It's fascinating to me, though, that Cursor and so many of these tools are focusing so heavily on this. But maybe this is a bigger thing than we realize.
I feel like it's still a ploy for them to make more money, because they have multiple agents, all using tokens, all using vast amounts of them. That is my first thought, is that we know from our own experience that the agents can't be trusted. Claude can never be trusted if you leave it alone too long. It will make bad decisions. So having 5 Claudes or 5 cursors all going at the same time just seems like a way for them to boost their numbers, boost their revenue, not necessarily get actually better results.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I also that who's going to do the review on that? Like, is it back
You
to
do.
Yeah.
me now to go and like take a look at all 5 of these and like go?
Yes. And that's their UI is designed to like help you do that.
Yeah.
So they have like a lot of the effort that they put into this release is making it easier to view diffs, to view the changes it made so that you can like switch between them and then pick which one you like and then continue onwards. And I mean, they clearly put a lot of work into this, and it's fairly intuitive as I've sort of tried it out. Like I said, I just question whether this is a workflow that is the best workflow for most people. I could totally see it in certain circumstances, like especially like the front end fire one is a good example of this, where to me, like that's just a little side project, and
Yeah, sure.
I can spin up little things like that, and I might actually use them. But I don't see myself using this for the production apps that I work on. For those, I still kind of want to be working on one thing at a time. I might try the idea of running it by the same task by multiple agents. To me is more pragmatic than the idea of 2 completely separate tasks. But even still, I don't know. Like I don't know if I want to be spawning up multiple things to keep track of versus just having my like one track focused thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean the review sounds like it could be just a nightmare if it's touched a bunch of files and you have to go through 40 files for each version. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, what happens if it's a little bit of this and a little bit of, I like you how you did this and I didn't like how you did that kind of thing. I don't know. I tend to my workflow around this is very agentic now. Like there'll be days when I'm literally all I do is just talk to the agent and I'm just reviewing the results and that's it. Like I'm not even coding, to be honest. It's crazy. And that's a weird feeling all on its own, but it's still the same kind of workflow of I've got one thing that I want to do right now. I'm working with one agent. I'm going through. I'm taking a look at all the results. I'm committing when I feel it's right. That sort of thing. It's just basically just an accelerant of me typing keys. It's not like...
Yeah, it's still hands-on, even though you delegate to the agent. It's not the agent's not completely off on its own or spawning multiple things.
Right, and unless I'm having it make new projects or modules, like it's not actually making more than like 1 or 2 files, 2 or 3 files at a time. And
and that was going to be my question to you: is what is your favorite IDE currently? Because I still use VS Code, but I have Claude open in a terminal, and now Claude 2.0 I think has an option where you can tell it to connect to your open IDE, so it'll actually show you the file changes inside of VS Code files when it wants to make changes, which is great because I've got VS Code open already and Claude just auto connects to it and shows me the changes in line. So I'm very happy with that workflow.
I'm on Cursor. But I'm also looking at Windsurf. I'm not looking at VS Code lately. I just Cursor. I did pay like the mega monthly charge for Cursor because like at the end of the day I use it so much that I don't want it to like halfway through the month be like, yeah, you're done for the month. It's like, no, I'm not done for the month. Like but yeah, no. So I like Cursor. It seems to work the way that I do. It's really hard nowadays because all these IDEs are going just gangbusters and they're adding new features all the time. And it's kind of like, whoa, well, like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I'm in VS Code, but all my AI stuff is done through Claude. So I'll either use Claude Code from the terminal or I'll use the Claude Code extension for VS Code, which is quite good. I've been using that pretty heavily. So to me, it's less... The editor doesn't matter as much. I do think Cursor's models for like inline editing are better than VS Code's, but I don't use it enough to justify paying for it on top of already paying for Claude Code. Maybe I should or whatever, but to me, Claude just does the heavy liftings, and I'll use any VS Code or VS Code fork around it, and that is totally fine with me. The agent stuff is, I guess, a little bit interesting, but it's not. I don't feel compelled to switch over to Cursor and start heavily using this. But I keep it installed. I keep I had it ready to go when I wanted to try it out for this episode. So I'll continue to keep it around and keep tabs on it because it is a very good editor.
It really is. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I
It's
was just
genuinely good.
curious what your daily drivers are because I know there's Kiro and there's Windsurf, which I don't feel like we've heard anything about since they first debuted. And there's what was the one from ByteDance, Trey
Trey,
Oh,
AI.
yeah.
Trey, yeah.
Like I haven't heard boo about any of them in what feels like weeks or months now.
Yeah.
Well, I keep so as a quote unquote influencer, I keep getting like emails from the Trey folks saying, hey, do you want to do some kind of content?
Yeah.
I haven't taken them up on it. And then the Windsurf folks actually just reached out. They've got a new model that they think is really awesome. And so they want me to take a look at that. So, I do hear from these folks. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's such it's a crowded space right now. It really is.
The last thing I want to mention about Cursor specifically is that with this release, they also have a new browser tool. So this is a way that you can launch a browser directly within Cursor. And what's cool about it is that Cursor can also, and its agents and stuff can then use the browser. So you don't need like a separate MCP server for it. The browser is just right there. And there's a cool thing that it has. So it's based off Chrome because, of course it is.
Of course it is, yeah.
But they have little buttons like you can select. They have like an element picker, like in the Chrome Dev Tools, where you can inspect an element. But you can inspect an element and then tell the agent whatever the AI chat, and it'll know what element is selected within the browser, which is kind of slick. So just some fun little things within the browser. Just having all of that in Cursor seems quite cool.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up because I did not know that, and now I'm looking at it. I'm like, dang, I wanted this for so long. Why haven't we had this? What is going on? Like, what? I don't understand why we haven't had this for so long.
It's so good, especially if you have a widescreen monitor. You can just set it. You can set it up as mission control. You can have your editor, your agent, your browser, like all right there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I've got these spiffy new BenQ monitors, so
Oh yeah, nice.
Gotta try those out, and I know Paige does as well. Paige is on the BenQ train.
That's right, free tech.
Well, okay, sure.
Not
there's
free.
that.
Not free. Like we're doing reviews and writing articles and stuff, but still expensive monitors for, something that we can do for them.
Cool stuff. Well, that's not the only AI news we have, Paige. I know we've been kind of building to having a more general AI discussion, and I think you were going to intro it for us.
Yeah, we have. And it's, the AI articles have never stopped flowing out of the media and influencers and people who work in tech and people who don't work in tech. But I came across, and it seems like there's more of them that are coming across recently that are questioning the AI tech bubble. And if it is, in fact, another bubble, and what it's doing to things like our employment for new developers who are just fresh out of college, what it's doing to like our own architectural software skills. Like, can we rely on an AI LLM to generate a well-architected application from scratch and make it so that it will scale and maintainable and be, good for a long time? But the thing that I kind of like read recently and really spurred this was a person, and I've linked to it in the show notes. It's a very long read. I will tell you that right up front, but it's very well researched. And it's just kind of breaking down the numbers that OpenAI is throwing around, the numbers that NVIDIA is earning, and how much of the AI hype seems to be driven by just the biggest tech companies who are investing in it. So Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Apple, Google, all those. And if you take those away, is there really any actual demand for AI related anything? Because the numbers are staggering. The amount of money that OpenAI is saying they need in order to build the data centers and the gigawatt energy generators and things like that, there is not enough VC funding in the world right now for all of the money that OpenAI says it needs to build this. And when you start to look at the numbers of what companies like Anthropic and Microsoft and Cursor or Google, what they're actually getting in terms of usage or what they're making in terms of money, as opposed to how much they're burning or
Yeah.
how few users are actually using these AI features like Microsoft 365 Copilot or whatever it's called. It really makes you wonder if they can survive. And I know that we've talked about it and it's happened before that there are companies that are not profitable for years before they actually become profitable, and they may never. I don't know if Dropbox still is making any money, to be honest. But the amount of money that is being spent versus the amount of money that they're bringing in just does not add up to such a staggering amount that it really, really makes you wonder if it's gonna, how long this can keep going.
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts here about
Yes,
this world.
I think we all do.
So in terms of whether there is an AI bubble, and this applies to general AI, this even applies to the sort of front end world as well with some of these AI tools. I think two things can be true at once. I think AI can genuinely be a fundamental change. The hype can be very real. AI is going to completely change industries, change how a lot of things work, and be a fundamental change for the world, for industry, for front end, for everything. But that also, when something this big comes along, the investment can be a little too much, and some ideas that maybe shouldn't be invested in will still get a whole lot of money and interest, and when there's not actually usage there. And I think there's probably going to be some point where there is a correction, just because the scale of money going into this world and the investment is kind of out of control. But I tend to side on the side that most of this investment is actually quite logical, just because of the scale of the change that AI represents. I mean, I just brought up, for example, we were just talking about Cursor. Cursor brought in their ARR, their annual recurring revenue, by mid 2025 this year is over $500 million. So that's not expenditures. That's revenue.
Yeah,
that's
that's
actually money
okay.
that people are paying. Now, I would argue that Cursor is one of the tools that is going to survive any sort of bubble, because there is real value there. There is real usage there. But still, not all of this is just completely hype. The software world is one example where some of this investment is, there are people paying behind it. And it's actually the non-software usage that I think, and that's having read through the epically long article that's in the show notes, a lot of what it's focused on there is that Microsoft, for example, is trying to push Copilot into its Office suite, and there's a lot of people are questioning, is it worth the effort there? It's, to me, a lot of the bubble is in people shoving in AI where there's questionable value, but in the software world, in the front end world, in the tech world, I think a lot of it is justified, because there are people there that are paying for them, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the dev world, I think you're right. I think Cursor will survive. I think these, the agents will survive. And the reason is that if you look at the hiring's still good amongst the more senior professionals, right? And so you see teams expanding, and if they have to charge, $2,000 a month to make money off of Cursor, and so a company just needs to basically say, okay, for every one of our engineers, we got to pay 24 grand a year, for AI. Well, that's just the cost of doing business. That's just the extra amount that you would put on a fully loaded engineer. You've already got to pay for health insurance and all the other stuff. So yeah, and companies, and Cursor could survive on that if they can do $2,000 a seat. They'll make money on that, right? And that's okay. That's the kind of way that I think about that. But in terms of yeah, you're right. These companies are just sitting on top of some LLM and just adding some minor amount of value. No, you're never gonna make it. You can't. Because these big companies, it's all subsidized at this point. They're all
Yeah.
Yeah.
It absolutely
crazy.
is. I mean, going to this article, I've pulled it up so I can look at some of the stats, but one of the things that they highlighted is that there are 440 million Microsoft 365 subscribers. So that is their total user base of all the Microsoft suite stuff that everybody uses at work. There are 8 million
That's a lot.
active paying Microsoft 365 Copilot subscribers out of 440 million.
Wow.
That is staggeringly small
Like, yeah, what's that, 2%? Jeez, that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 1.8% conversion rate out of 440 million actual
Wow.
subscribers.
Wow.
To me,
Okay.
the hard part with this is you have to be able to, as a service with AI, you have to provide enough value that goes above and beyond what people can do just by copying and pasting things into ChatGPT or Claude. Because, I mean, I
Right.
also think the OpenAIs and the Claudes will be totally fine from all this as well, just because they underpin so much of what's going on nowadays. But for some of these other services, and we've seen this at Blues, as we've been exploring adding AI tools for people on our docs and whatnot as well. And it's really hard to build a tool that's just better than people just going to chatgpt.com, because those tools have gotten so good that I mean, I am a Microsoft 365 customer. We use Word, we use Excel. I've never desired to have an agent in any of those tools because for the most part, it doesn't come up. And when it does, it's no big deal for me to go to ChatGPT and ask my question there. There's not much integration I'm looking for. And I'd say that's different than like the cursor use case where I absolutely having the agent right there is so much more useful. It can look at my entire code base. It can do, can change files. It can do all sorts of things. So there's actually real value there. But yeah, some of this other world, it's like, it just seems like a bunch of mindless building. People throw AI on their website, on their tools, whether it's actually something people want or not. And sometimes they'll add it and they'll try to charge for it, and people get upset by that because there's a lot of pushback at this point. I think that's the culmination that's leading to articles like this. People are getting frustrated by having AI shoved down their throats in places that they don't really need or want it.
Yeah. And the AI isn't giving them the answers that they want, and so it's more of a pain. People are experiencing bad AI on their phones with the Apple intelligence stuff, and yeah, we're definitely getting to that AI winter where you get some negative pushback against it, and it's like, okay, enough. We'll take another pass at this. When you guys figure out whatever the next thing past LLMs is in 10 years, and then we'll do something.
Well, and I think that we've all come to the conclusion, or at least those of us who are in the day-to-day work, that AI and LLMs and agents, they are not actually replacing people. They cannot replace engineers. They cannot replace designers. They cannot replace whatever it is that you think you don't need people for anymore, support agents, support people, whatever, because they are not good enough. They have no memory. They can't learn, really, really learn, and grow and be better. And it's really bad though, because we're seeing every day major companies are laying off tens of thousands of workforce people. Amazon, UPS, name it, they've done it, and it sucks. But they're going to either regret it and hire back a bunch of people in the not too distant future, or they're probably just gonna quietly eat that cost, and they probably had too many people to begin with if they can afford to lay off these people and not replace them.
Well, it's funny though, because you say that AI cannot replace people, but what companies are increasingly trying is whether AI can replace junior people.
Yeah.
And one of the studies that we also have linked to in the show notes, Harvard just came out with this big study that showed starting in 2022, if you look at tech recruiting and hiring and whatnot, tech senior roles, hiring for that has been increasing steadily since that time. And more junior roles or entry-level roles are declining since then.
Precipitously.
So, yeah, and it's very noticeable if you look at the data. And this was a study run on, I think, 250,000. It's a big data
one.
set. This isn't just them cherry picking a handful of things. And I think the implications of this are going to take some time to see, but they're very real. I do worry a little bit about the difficulty of new people coming up because, I mean, when I started in tech, I very much took an entry-level role. And when I started, I really didn't actually have any idea what I was doing. And it took me a few years of working with more senior people and getting my feet wet before I started being a valuable contributor at different companies. And it's going to be harder. I really do sympathize with people if you're 22, 21, 23, coming out of college, just trying to get into this world, I do think it's going to be harder to get an entry-level role, to learn what you need to know to get started. And
Yeah.
I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest with you.
It's tough because, anybody can. I mean, my wife has been like, if you don't hire people now, you're not going to, if you don't hire juniors, you're not going to have seniors, because they're
Exactly.
this is like, anybody can see this. And,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, I kind of hope that these kids who can't get jobs, like, they'll get into that YC train or something like that, do like the aid and buy thing of like, we're just going to do our own thing. You'll see us in competition with you, a year from now.
Yeah.
Don't hire me, fine. I'll be your competition. See a lot of that, hopefully.
I mean, that sounds great, but that's a rough
That
road
is
to
rough.
go.
Whoa,
And
that's
there's
rough.
so many
Yeah.
that just don't have that option. They need paychecks now, and they
Yeah.
need jobs and stable employment now for whatever reason.
I am optimistic, though. The market, I mean, this isn't the first radical shift. I mean, calculators were invented, the internet was invented. Those upended lots of different markets, created lots of different types of jobs. I do think that through just the power of the market, we will figure this out. I just think that if you are currently in one of those roles as this shift is happening, you're probably going to have to fight harder than you would have had otherwise to find your place in this.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks, but I think you just have to deal with reality and start learning these tools, fight your way into whatever you can find, scrap and claw. And, you're doing a good start listening to podcasts like this. And,
There you go.
We wish you the best out there, but I do think it's going to be weird, I guess, for a while to see how this reshapes the industry.
Yeah, jump on those open source projects, do that documentation stuff, make those PRs, learn through open source. That's out there. You can do that. I know it sucks.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't pay anything, although there are people that are paying for open source, like open source contributors to go and work on stuff. It is rare, though, unfortunately.
And Jack, do you want to talk about one of the tweets that you shared that we linked to as well, or that you wrote actually, about LLMs and how much we should or should not rely on them for certain things?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I saw we've been doing a lot on TanStack, and there's been a lot of buzz around it. And somebody put in response to one of our tweets, like, hey, I went on ChatGPT and asked it, what should I use for a web app development or something like that in React, and it told me to use Next.js instead of TanStack Start. And it's like, okay, but should you really let LLMs make those kind of architectural decisions for you? I mean, what are you doing at this point? If you're letting the LLM code and you're letting the LLM make your choices to what technologies to use and all that sort of stuff, what do you bring into the party? I mean, I think that's the thing, at least the joy of what I do is kind of now I can like think more high level about stuff and just let, the LLM actually take care of like refactoring the code and making these kind of code changes. But like doing that architecture stuff, making those pros and cons choices is the joy of coding of doing my work nowadays. It's like, why would you let an LLM do that? And is it appropriate to let LLMs do that? And I think part of this has gone back to, I've seen this in my video, in my comments, in my video stream, and on Discord. There are some folks out there who just want authoritative figures. They're just like, Dan Abramov said X, therefore we do X, or there's this white paper out there saying that Next is the way to go, and, so Next is the thing to do. It's like, maybe not in your situation. I mean, look at the pros and cons. That's the job, is for you to like weigh the pros and cons of your particular situation versus technologies, make those decisions. Don't let LLMs do that for you.
But see, that's the senior developer perspective. See, that's why I like,
Yeah,
You
fair
know
enough.
how to research and pro and con different things based on what your end result or end product needs to be.
yeah, the considerations to take into account, because it's definitely more of a junior thing that said like, well, just pick the hot new thing or whatever the LLM tells me to. And it's a more nuanced take to say, well, let's consider my team, the life cycle of this project, how long it needs to be maintained, my performance needs, my user base, how quickly I need to spring this up. Like those are questions you learn to ask through experience. And so, yeah, to try to bring it back to the junior stuff, you need that's a junior person that needs guidance from somebody that's ideally like in the same office, talking to them and walking them through it. And now those people, I guess, are just, on Twitter and
saying, why should I choose Tanzac Start when Claude tells me
not to.
What?
Exactly.
What are you letting Claude do that? Crazy.
I mean, one thing that I will say in defense of not using LLMs for this kind of decision, because I was listening to another podcast that had on one of the DevRel folks at Coinbase, and Coinbase is one of the companies that proudly proclaims that 40% of their code is written by AI at this point. And he described in more detail what that really means. And it sounds a lot more down to earth when they go into detail of it. And it sounds like very much kind of like what we're doing with using Claude or Cursor or something to add new code, reviewing it, having sub agents review it in PR requests and make comments, having different workflows like that they're just automating and trying to get agents into, instead of just like telling it to do something and then going away and then coming back 3 hours later to see what's there. But at the same time, they asked this guy, what limitations are there that you found? And one of the things that he said was that it is not great for greenfield projects. It is much better. At least Claude and Claude Code are much better when you already have an established project that you can show it, or you can tell it, hey, I need you to write some new test files. Look at these existing test files for the pattern, syntax. Yeah, the libraries that I use, the whole testing syntax, or I need to write some new API endpoints. Look at these existing ones for the style of fetch that we use or whatever. So I think that kind of gets to the root of what we're saying, is that LLMs, they can make maybe good suggestions, but whatever they say, you need to then verify if it really is the thing that will solve your problem or the direction that you should go architecturally or software tech stack wise, because they're just guessing still. Under all of it, they're just trying to put the next right word in sentence, and there's no actual thinking involved.
Indeed. Well, this was fun. If you have further thoughts, our Discord is open. We like having conversations about this. We'd also like feedback on segments like this. This is something we've talked about doing more, is just having open conversations about topics like this. So we'd love to hear what you think about that as well. Our Discord link is in the show notes. But for now, why don't we talk about things that are making us happy?
Woohoo!
Paige, what's making you happy this week?
Okay, so in my part of the world, which is Atlanta, Georgia, it has started to finally get cold. The seasons are changing. It's getting cooler. I know, it's been a while. It's the end of October. It should be.
I know, right?
But I am going to pick something that I probably picked last year, and it is the Comfy Life Heated Footrest. It's available on Amazon. It's something that my husband got me because I am perpetually have cold feet during the winter. And it's this little footrest that you can put under your desk. So if you work from home, or even if you work in an office, it's very portable. And you plug it in, and then you can just turn it on, and it heats up to a minimum of 90 degrees. And it feels great if you're wearing bare feet, or if you probably have socks on. But it's awesome. I love it. It's great in the winter. I took it out from under my desk during the summer because I didn't need it, and just put it over in the corner. And I just brought it back out, and boy, works like a champ.
Nice.
Yeah, I love the look of this. I might have to get one of these for my wife, because she also complains about this a lot. So
yeah,
you guys
I bet she would love it.
You guys use the sad lamps?
Mm-mm.
No? Oh, okay. So
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's a seasonal effectiveness disorder lamp. So the idea is, because the days get shorter, you're basically waking up when it's dark. You're going, and you're Like most of the day is in dark effectively, especially like not for you so much, Paige, but like for me in Portland, like it definitely gets, like some of those nights are long. And so a sad lamp actually gives you like a daylight frequency of wavelength of light. And you're supposed to use it when you wake up, even if it's dark. And it actually helps with this, like, it helps get you out of that depressive phase that folks go through when it's just dark all the time, So, yeah.
Yeah, it's for your circadian rhythm and making more
Something like
vitamin
that.
D and stuff like that in the months where there's not a lot of daylight or sunlight.
Yeah. And it's supposed to help your mood. So, like the whole like sad seasonal affective disorder. It also is really just sad. You're just sad. Yeah. Like, oh, I wish summer is here because summer's cooler than winter.
It's still cold outside and dark.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, what is making you happy this week?
The Toxic Avenger is making me happy this week. So this is a movie that was made in 2023, but really released this year. And it's got Peter Dinklage. I love Peter Dinklage. And a bunch of other folks. It's got an amazing cast. It's got Elijah Wood. It's got Kevin Bacon, Julia Davis, Jane Levy. I mean, it is like this amazing cast of this basically schlock horror movie, the Toxic Avenger, and Peter Dinklage plays the Toxic Avenger, and he's not particularly smart. It's hilarious. Like the whole movie's just this great like send up of kind of 80s, gore horror movie kind of thing, but it's super well done. And
how did I not know this existed? This has got some really big names in it,
right? Yeah, it's got a remarkable cast, and it's just fun. When all the locations are like the creepy woods, and then of course like he works for this company that's like just big chemical awful. Terrible company, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is great, So it's just fun. They're clearly having a fun time, and I love to see these actors just doing this kind of stuff where it's like, we're just having fun with it. Like Elijah Wood has played some crazy stuff. Like he's done he played a dead guy in one movie, and like he's like, I got Harry Potter money. What are you gonna do? I'm just gonna have fun, right? Peter Dinklage, he's got Game of Thrones money. He's just gonna have some fun. Whatever.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So if you're into that sort of thing, it's fun. It's definitely gory though. So there's a lot of that.
Nice.
Cool. Well, what's making me happy this week is a news story. So this, I don't know, this is just hilarious to me. So the New York City mayoral race is going on right now. I think the actual election is like next week or whatever. And so this London Reporter was tasked with writing a story about the election, and they wanted to get a quote from Bill de Blasio, former mayor of New York. So he probably has a pretty interesting take on this race. Yeah. So this reporter found an email for Bill de Blasio and asked him a bunch of questions, got back an answer, published this story. Turns out that the person that they emailed wasn't the former mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio. It was instead a 59-year-old Long Island wine importer, also named Bill de Blasio, who got this email and decided that he basically said, quote, I never once said I was mayor. They never addressed me as the mayor, quote, so I just gave them my opinion. So just...
I love it.
He said
that's the best.
He said he used ChatGPT for some of his answers so that he could sound, like have informed opinions about Mondami's tax policy and all this stuff. But I just love that, this is an article that actually went out. And then as soon as it went out, the actual Bill de Blasio kept getting asked about it. And he's like, I never said it.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
That's just when all this came out. Oh, but I just love that. I just love that somebody got this and just decided, what? They never asked me if I was mayor. I'm just going to give my thoughts on these questions, and
that's awesome. That's
amazing.
Pushed it out. So
that's so good.
I got a good laugh out of that.
I had something of a similar experience. So my wife and I do this coffee thing where we got this like local coffee chain called the Human Bean, and we go there often enough where I have like a full on, like frequent flyer kind of thing with them. And it's on beans, right? And so they don't really explain the bean thing really well. And I'm at the top level now because I'm a platinum bean person,
VIP.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm VIP because we've just gone frequently enough. The dog loves pup cups and that sort of thing. So we go up pretty often. Anyway, but but it was kind of weird. I'm like, if I spend the beans, do I lose my premier position? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not clear. So like I had, Claude research it for me. And Claude's like, I don't think you do. And I'm like, okay, can you substantiate that? And he's like, well, thank you for asking me to substantiate that because I really have no idea. I just kind of made it up. And I said, well, okay, so let's actually, he's like, well, what you should do is email the support line. And I said, well, I'm lazy. Make an email for me. And so like he made the email and all that sort of stuff. And he said, well, let me know how it goes because I'm really interested now. And so they get back to me. Turns out, actually, that it's like a rolling window of 365 and blah, 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 blah. And, so I don't lose all my thing. But it was funny. And then I pasted the email back to him and he's like, oh, that's exciting. Thank you. We were both kind of wrong and this sort of stuff. It was the first time because I'd said I thought it was like a straight like just if-then statement. Like if the current number of beans is below a certain number, then that's what you are kind of thing. Because that's the easiest thing to implement at any given time, right? And yeah, he's like, and so you know how they always say you're absolutely right? He was like, he literally, you were wrong. And the wrong was in all uppercase. And I was like, this is so good. Like, this is like a twofer. One, we got the right answer. And two, you told, for the first time ever, you expressly told me I was wrong.
In all caps.
In all caps.
That's got to be a new,
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
You could have if you're using one of the AI browsers, you wouldn't have to tell it to do, it just could have done the email for you, right? Like it would have just straight did it. See, you're missing out.
That's true, yeah.
Just give it access to your whole Gmail and, let it go.
I just have a relationship with Claude. Although Claude is now in my Firefox, so I should just use that. Yeah, that's true. It's like you do. Do you guys not have you kind of have a little bit of a rapport, right? With your
You go back and forth.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah, sure. I like it. Answers my questions. Not everybody does that.
Well, this is like you get to, it's like you can at least understand why people end up in these problematic relationships with these AI models. Right. You can at least have a vision of how it happens.
Oh my
because,
God,
especially if you tune these things to be have certain characteristics or personalities and you use it enough, it really is something that you can get hooked with. So I at least understand how those things go down.
Well, yeah. One of my nieces has like a full-on kind of just continuous banter with her ChatGPT, and I think it calls her like Queenie or something like that. It's the whole
it's
thing.
A lot. Well, just imagine once we have devices and it's
right.
It's in your pocket.
It's going to be
It's like
not in your pocket. It'll be like in your implant or your
your eyeball.
And that's probably a good place to wrap this up, though, as this goes off the rails. Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of Front End Fire. Again, all relevant things are in the show notes if you want to read any of the articles, if you want to check out any of the socials, if you want to jump in on and join us and talk about these sort of things on Discord as well. But yeah, thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
See you then.